Okay, hello everyone. You still could say good morning at this time, yes? Good morning. We started actually 2 weeks ago. We spoke about Shabbat and we mentioned that Shabbat is the purpose of the creation. I want to show you another thing about Shabbat today, something very interesting. As you know, in the Kiddush, when we do Kiddush in Leil Shabbat, we said that if you understand the words, some people just say the word without understanding them, but if you understand the word, it says that the Shabbat is in a memory of Yetziat Mitzrayim, Zecher L'Yetziat Mitzrayim, Zecher L'Maaseh Bereshit. So we mentioned two things, that it's in the memory of the creation, of the sixth day of the creation, and Hashem, that God created the world in 6 days, and He rested or finished the creation at the seventh day. This is in the memory of Maaseh Bereshit, meaning the sixth day of the creation, the Shabbat. But we mentioned in the Kiddush also that it's in the memory of Yetziat Mitzrayim. And let's just a little bit show a few sources about this, try to understand what is the meaning of this. Last week we show those verses in Sefer Shmot. It says over here, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. I'm not going to go through all the things that we spoke about last week, because last session, because we spoke about it. So we want to continue. Just a reminder, Shabbat is a Jewish thing. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת. Only Jews. We have to understand, again, we have to remember, the Torah was not given only for Jews. The Torah were given to the world. There are in the Torah 7 commandments called Sheva Mitzvot Bnei Noach. That Noach, which is the second father of the human race, after in the flood, everything perished. So Noach and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Yefet, are actually, everybody in the world today is a descendant of one of these 3 dynasties, right? So Noach got 7 commandments that every human being should do. None of them is Shabbat. And this is the thing that I want you to remember when we going to learn today something very interesting about Shabbat. It says here again, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, only בני ישראל, not the Gentiles. לדורותם ברית עולם בין יהיו ובין בני ישראל. And here it's mentioned in Sefer Shmot, in Exodus, it's mentioned that it's a sign, אותי לעולם, כי 6 ימים עשה השם את השמיים ואת הארץ. So here, it's clearly bringing us to the creation, that Hashem created the world in 6 days, and He finished the work in the 7th day. The question is, if so, and it's very, very important to know this. Why? Why it's very important? Because, you know, when we live here, every human being in the world, the most important question that everyone should ask themselves is, what's the purpose of life? What's the purpose of life? Why we were born? Where are we going? I mean, let me even put it a little bit hard. If at the end, everyone is dying, what's the purpose to live before? What's the purpose of life? Just to stay here, enjoy the time that we have here, and that's it, and then finished? This is the major philosophical question that every human being should ask themselves. Now, many people ask those questions, but there are no answers. So everybody decided, you know, I decide that the meaning of my life will be this, and the other person will do the opposite, the other things, right? The question is if there is an objective purpose to the life of every individual and to the existence of the creation, the universe in general. And the answer is yes. There is a creator. He created the world for a purpose. We spoke about a little bit about this purpose last time. But it's very, very important to understand when you have to decide what are you going to do with your life. You have to verify before if you are part, you and everyone is part of bigger plan, or you making your plans. Now, if there is no creator, and as you know, the theory is that the entire universe become to exist just by itself with Big Bang and other stuff, no creator. If there is no creator, so everything is by chance. If everything is by chance, there is no purpose. In this case, everybody will do whatever they want, because anyways there is no purpose, right? But if there is a creator, and this is the major thing, if there is a creator, and he created the world in order to achieve some purpose, right? So there is a purpose. In this case, it's very essential to us to understand what is the purpose, right? Now, God commanded us over here, the Jews, Bnei Israel, who got the Torah. He says to them, listen, every week, one day, you will give a testimony to yourself and to the world that there is a creator. It was a creation. The creation was in 6th day, and the 7th day, Hashem finished his work. That's what you should do, and that is the meaning of Brit Olam. There is a covenant between God and us that we will be his witnesses that he created the world. Why, again, it's important? In order for everyone to understand that there is meaning to our being here. Not just us as Jews, but every human being and every creature in the universe. This is actually what's written here. And here comes a big question. If so, why Jews? Why only Jews? Every human being should know this, right? If this is the reason, every person in the world should be keeping Shabbat in order to know the purpose of the creation. Why? It's not part of the 7 mitzvot Bnei Noach. Okay? So here we're going to go to a little bit deep things that explained in the Kabbalah, but in order to get to there, we have to start from the beginning. We have to remember the following. Hashem created the world in 6 days. In the 6th day of the creation, he created Adam. Before Hashem created Adam, he says the following, ויאמר אלוקים, נעשה אדם בצלמנו כדמותנו, וירדו בדגת הים ובעוף השמיים. Meaning, Hashem says, after he created everything, the human being, Adam was created at the end. But before Hashem created Adam, he says, I'm not gonna do now. I'll create another creature. I want to create a very special creature, and this creature will not be just another element in the universe. He will be my partner. In what way? נעשה אדם בצלמנו כדמותנו. I will make now a creature in the image of God, whatever it is, in order for this creature to manage and run the universe, the world that I created. Meaning Hashem created now his partner. He created the world. But now he wants somebody to run it, to manage it. This is the meaning of the words וירדו בדגת הים. ירדו זה מלשון רדייה. שלטון, management, to run the things. Okay? So Adam was created at the end, and Hashem put the entire universe under his hand, as we say in Tehillim. You just say Tehillim, ותחסרהו מעט מאלוקים, you made it just a little less than God itself. כל שתה תחת רגליו, everything you put under his control. Now, the Kabbalah told us the following. It's mentioned in the Midrash, but it's more in details in the Kabbalah. Adam HaRishon was created in the 6th day of the creation. He was put in the Garden of Eden at the same day. He was commanded to eat from all the fruits of the garden, but not from Etz HaDa'at Tov Hara. He sinned and ate from Etz HaDa'at Tov Hara in the same day, Friday, which is Yom HaShishi, And he chased out of Gan Eden in the same very day, without seeing Shabbat. He missed the Shabbat. Everything happened the same day. And here is the thing. The purpose of the universe, as we said in details last week, and anybody who missed this lecture of 2 weeks ago could watch it on YouTube. If you want, I'll give you the address. I just recorded it, and it's there. It's very important to hear it. The purpose of the entire universe is Shabbat. We spoke about it last time. Okay? Adam HaRishon, because he was a freewheeler, and he got a commandment, and Hashem told him in advance, if you listen to me, everything will be good. If not, few things will happen. One of them, you bring on yourself death. The other thing, you will not be in Gan Eden. He chased him out of Gan Eden. And the major thing is that he missed the purpose. He missed the Shabbat. Not just him, all of his descendants missed the Shabbat. I'll try to explain it a little bit. It's deep. Adam HaRishon, and every human being, is a combination of two things, body and soul. Body is physical, soul is spiritual. 2 dimensions, the combination of them is the human being. Now, the tendency of the physical are the impulse, the needs, the physical needs, the immediate physical needs. The impulse. The function of the spiritual dimension is the pure ability to think, what called in Hebrew, da'at. So there are two things, da'at, which is thinking, and dachaf, which is, the English translation of dachaf is impulse. The dachafim, impulse, are function of the physical. Verse to it, there is the mind, which is the function of the spiritual. When Adam HaRishon get the commandment, do not eat from Etz HaDaat Tovara. Hashem told him, God told him, don't eat from Etz HaDaat Tovara, right? This was, you have to understand, this is very dramatic. It was the first time anyone was about to use this amazing thing, this gift called free will. Never happened before. And we have to understand again, all the elements that Hashem created in the universe are not free willers. They are obligated to the laws of nature, and the laws of nature is their programs. They never decided by themselves anything. Instincts, all of this are just maneuvered or programmed by the laws of nature. The only person, the only creature in the entire universe, and not just refer to plants or animals, even the elements that higher than the human being, apparently, like angels, there are such a thing. They are also not free willers. They have a program that dictate them and operate them. The only free willer in the entire universe is the human being. And the reason for it, because the human being is the only one who's combined from physical and spiritual. Okay? Now, the first time that any creature was about to actualize the potential of the free willer was at the time when Hashem commanded Adam HaRishon, don't eat from Etz HaDaat Tovara. Now what happened? Hashem told him, he understood completely what Hashem said, but if you remember, the story over there was the serpent, the snake, the Nachash, and the Nachash made them, Adam and Chava, or tried to temptate them not to listen to God. So now, what's actually happened? What actually happened that Adam heard the commandment. Now he debated. The mind told him, listen to God. The impulse told him, eat from it. As it's mentioned in the Torah, if you remember the verse, ותרא האישה כי טוב העץ למאכל וכי תאווה הוא לעיניים. תאווה is desire, right? So on the scale in both sides was the impulse from one side and the da'at from the other side. What was the right way to choose between them? To put the da'at above and control the desire. What actually happened? What was the chet? You know, again, in Hebrew, chet, the translation to, how do you say chet in English? Sin. But in Hebrew, what's the meaning of the word chet? Chet are the letter chet, tet, and aleph, right? If you know some Hebrew, there is another thing that this is the source of it, which is when you have a target and you have to shoot, there is one point in the target that if the arrow will get there, it's good. There are many, actually endless way of missing. So anything that's not in the right place is missing. How do you say to miss in Hebrew? Lehachti. Lehachti is to miss the target. What? Yeah. It's the same thing. That's what I'm trying to say. Lehachti. And the definition of chet is to miss the target, meaning when you put things not in their place, this is a chet. This is a missing. Okay? Now, the right way of Adam HaRishon should be to put the knowledge, the da'at, in control of the desire. But he did just the opposite, and that was the sin. That was the chet. Because of this chet, he missed the purpose of the universe. Again, if you remember from last time, Hashem created 2 dimensions in the universe. Shamayim, the spiritual dimension, and Aretz, which is the physical dimension. The order is, Bereshit bara Elokim et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz. Shamayim is first, is the leader thing, right? Now Adam HaRishon has to decide, and he decided that the Aretz, which is the physical, will be the major thing. And this way he missed the target. And he missed the target, he missed the Shabbat also. Now, what happened? Here is a Kabbalah. The Kabbalah says the following. There is something called Zohamat HaNachash. I don't know how to translate it to English in a way that it will be close to accurate, right? Zohamat HaNachash is a spiritual impurity. Spiritual impurity. Zohama is dirt, but it's not physical dirt. It's impurity that because of the sin, because of the chet, become part, this impurity, of the physical dimension of the human being, which is the body. And actually what happened was imbalance between the body and the soul. In the Kabbalah, the way it's mentioned in the Kabbalah, that the soul fall down and captured by the peel. Like peel of a fruit, you have the orange and you have the peel of it, right? So the peel is surrounding it, and now in a way it's good because, you know, without the peel the orange will never grow, right? But what was wrong here, and why the Kabbalah used this, that the peel just captured the neshama, the soul, and now somebody who look at the fruit could mistakenly mix the fruit with the peel. The peel seems that this is the fruit. And in our body we see the same thing. In our personality, we have a neshama and we have a body. We have a soul and we have a body. Most of the people in the world relate to themselves as their body, not as their soul, right? So this is the impact of Chet Adam HaRishon. Before that, it was equal. And everybody knew, or it was aware, it was very, very clear what's the major and what's just the mean of it. That what mixed. Okay. Now, let's go, and I'll show you something very interesting mentioned about Shabbat in the 10 Commandments. As you know, the 10 Commandments mentioned in the Torah twice. In Sefer Shmot, in Exodus, in Parashat Yitro, and in Sefer Dvarim, Deuteronomy, in Parashat Vayetchanan, right? Look with me. Maybe you'll see it the first time in your life, because many people think they know it, but they didn't pay attention to the real things. Here's the Ten Commandments, the commandment about Shabbat, which is the fourth one, right? After Anochi, Hashem Elokecha, lo yeh לך אלוהים אחר פניי, לא תישא את שם השם אלוקיך לשווא. The fourth one is about Shabbat. How it says, how it's written in Sefer Shmot. זכור את יום השבת לקדשו. Remember the first word over here. זכור את יום השבת לקדשו. ששת ימים תעבוד ועשית כל מלאכתך, ויום השביעי שבת להשם אלוקיך, לא תעשה כל מלאכה. אתה ובנך וביתך, עבדך ואמתך ובהמתך, וגרך אשר בשעריך. Okay? Now be aware of this word, key. This is the key word. The key word. Key. Okay? What's key in Hebrew? Because. Meaning, Hashem explained in the Torah why He commanded us to do the Shabbat. So what's the reason? כי ששת ימים עשה השם את השמיים ואת הארץ, את הים ואת כל אשר בם, וינח ביום השביעי. Because of the creation. Right? And be aware of those two words. Al ken. What's al ken? Therefore. Because of this. Because of this. Berach Hashem et yom HaShabbat vayikadsheu. Now you learn Shemot. You go to the Ten Commandments. Go to the mitzvah of Shabbat. You understand what's written over there, right? You have to memorize Shabbat. Zachor et yom HaShabbat lekadsho. Why? Zecher li'tziat Mitzrayim. I'm sorry. Zecher le'maaseh bereshit. Because of the creation. Now, let's move to Sefer Dvarim. The Ten Commandments, the fourth one. First of all, it started with a different word. Instead of Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekadsho, it says over here, Shamor et Yom HaShabbat lekadsho. So, this is one difference. The first one, right? About this, you probably heard, this is famous, we say it in Lechadodi, Zachor v'Shamor b'dibur echad. Meaning, Hashem says both. And then Hashem says them in the same time. Nobody could say it, but Hashem could, right? So there is Zachor and this Shamor, but if you think this is the only difference over here, let's read it.
What's
now,
the meaning of Shamor?
Okay, Zachor is memorize, Shamor is keep. Keep. Lishmor. Like Shomer Shabbat. Lishmor. Now we have to understand deeply what Zachor and what Shamor and why they are two, okay? But this is not the only difference. Let's continue. Shamor et Yom HaShabbat לקדשו. I'm reading now from Sefer Dvarim. Shamor et Yom HaShabbat לקדשו כאשר ציווך השם אלוקיך. ששת ימים תעבוד ועשית כל מלאכתך, ויום השביעי שבת להשם אלוקיך, לא תעשה כל מלאכה. אתה ובנך וביתך ועבדך ואמתך, ושורך וחמורך וכל בהמתך אשר בשעריך. Now be aware of the next word. למען ינוח. What's למען? For. Why I'm commanding you to keep the Shabbat and don't do any work on Shabbat? Because למען ינוח עבדך ואמתך כמוך. Because your servants, your slaves, should be rest and Shabbat like you. וזכרת, כי עבד היית בארץ מצרים. You should remember that you were a slave in Egypt. ויוציאך השם אלוקיך משם ביד חזקה ובזרוע נטויה. Now again. על כן, therefore, ציווך השם אלוקיך לעשות את יום השבת. Wow. Completely different reason. No מעשה בראשית at all. No, the sixth day of the creation. It doesn't mention over here in the Torah, in Sefer Dvarim. What's mentioned instead? I took you out of Mitzrayim. I took you out of Egypt. In Egypt you were a slave. Now you're not a slave anymore. You have to remember the fact that you were a slave and Hashem caused you meaning the Jewish nation, not to be slaves. Therefore, every seventh day you will do something to remember that you are not slave anymore. This is what's written over here. And the question is, why is a different reason? Remember in Sefer Shmot it says, Ki sheshet yamim asa Hashem et hashamayim v'et haaretz. Why this Shabbat? Because of the sixth day of the creation. Here is different reason and seems completely not connected. Did you ever pay attention to this? No. Okay. So today we're doing this.
The first time is because of creation. The second time is because we came not in Egypt?
Right. Why we need two reasons and why it's not the same reasons. And actually, this is what we say in the Kiddush. As I mentioned before, when we do Kiddush every Shabbat, Friday night, next Friday night, be aware of this. We said both. We said, Zecher li'yitziat Mitzrayim, Zecher le'maaseh bereshit. And this is referred to what we just learned over here. Now we have to understand why there are two reasons and why they are not contradict but complete each other. Okay? Remember the question that I raised before? If the purpose of Shabbat, if the purpose that Hashem command us to keep Shabbat is because He created the world in 6 days and rested in the 7th day, meaning there is a creator, there is a purpose. If this is the reason, if this is the only reason, it's not understood why it's a Jewish mitzvah and not every human mitzvah. Everyone should know about it, right? Oh, here's the answer. The answer is a little bit complicated, but we'll say it slowly. It meant to be for everyone. In the beginning, it meant to be for everyone. What was the problem? Chet Adam HaRishon. Adam HaRishon in the 6th day of the creation missed the target. Instead of putting the spirituality up and the desire would be controlled by it, he did just the opposite. The desire, the impulse, the body, the physical was the purpose according to his choice, and the spirituality went to the corner, right? Therefore, he could not stay in Gan Eden for Shabbat. Because the relationship between Shabbat and the 6th day of the creation is the relationship between the 6. Remember from last time? 6 is the material. Shabbat is the 7, is the middle of the cube. The 6 are the outside of a cube. Take a cube, right? You have the directions, north, south, east, west, up and down. This is the 6. What is the 7? Is the core, is the middle of, right? This is the spiritual. Adam HaRishon, because he chose that the physical will be the main thing by him, therefore he missed the 7th, right? And it's not just him who missed it, all of his descendants forever. We missed the human race, the human being, missed the Shabbat. This is terrible. I mean, Hashem created the world for us, and we just denied it. I mean Adam HaRishon and his descendants. And if you know the history, it took 20 generations. It was 10 generations from Adam to Noah. All those people were very not good people. Therefore, after 10 generations, Hashem brought the flood and made them all perished. The only tzaddik that was Noah, right? So Noah survived. Noah started the history from the beginning. His descendants or his children was Shem and Ham and Yefet, and now there is a new chance, right? But they missed this chance also. 10 generations from Noah to Avraham Avinu, and what happened at the end? They built a tower. Remember the Migdal Bavel, the Babylonian tower? They built the tower. What was their idea? They want to deny God. נעשה מגדל וראשו בשמיים ונעשה לנו שם. We will decide what we're going to do with us. You are not interested. And they want to deny God. Then Hashem took the language and broke it. And nobody knows. Nobody understands the language of his. Until then it was only one language that were unified everyone. But they took it and tried to turn it against God. So God said, oh, that's what you want to do? I'm going to take it from you. That was the Babylonian tower. At the time of the Babylonian tower was Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu was at the time 48 years old. He was born as a Gentile in a house of idol worshippers. And since he was very, very little, he was thinking and trying to look for the truth and he discovered God. When he was 48, everyone in the leadership of Nimrod, that's the name of the king of the time. Nimrod is the rebel, the leader of the rebel. He built this tower. Avraham Avinu was the only one who refused to be part of it. Therefore, Avraham Avinu called Avraham HaIvri. Says the Midrash, the Gemara says, שהוא עומד מעבר אחד, וכל העולם כולו עומד מעבר אחר. That he stands in one side, and the rest of the universe, or the rest of the people are in the other side. He was alone. So, what happened actually? 10 generations from Adam to Noah. Another 10 generations from Noah to Avram. What started with the sin of Adam HaRishon just grew and got more and more power. We could think about the snowball. You know the snowball, the effect of the snowball? You have a little ball on the top of the mountain and it's all snowing, right? When this ball going down, you take another layer, and then it becomes very, very big. That's actually what happened. Nothing changed for good after Adam HaRishon was chased out of Gan Eden. Right after that was the first murder in the world. Cain murdered his brother Hevel. In the third generation, they start to idol worships. Idol worshippers started at the time of the third generation of Enosh. אז אוכל לקרוא בשם השם. Then they continue, והשחית כל בשר, they were so corrupted until after 10 generations, Hashem has no choice but to destroy everything. And then they continue with the rebel by building this tower of Babylon. The only person, 20 generations after, was Avraham Avinu, that said, wait, stop everything. I want to get off. That's not the way it should go. And he went everywhere and he said, you all wrong. There is only one power who really running the world. And actually what Adam HaRishon did, what Avraham Avinu did is just the opposite of what Adam HaRishon did. Adam HaRishon spoke, God spoke with him, and he denied him. He took other authority, the snake, or the idea of the snake, against the authority of God. Avraham Avinu did just the opposite 20 generations after. He was born and grew up to the society of idols, and he rebelled against the idols, and he said there is only one God. So he is the one now who wants to fix what went wrong since the time of Adam HaRishon. As you know, Hashem told him, לך לך מארצך וממולדתך ומבית אביך אל הארץ אשר אראך. You want to change the world for good, you have to know you could not do it over here. You have to leave this place. There is only one place in the world that your revolution will be successful. So follow me to the land that I'll show you. And he took him to the land of Canaan. At the land of Canaan, he promised him few times that he will make out of him a nation. In the words of the Torah, ve'escha legoy gadol. I will make out of you a great nation. Meaning, Hashem told him, the revolution that you want to do is not a job for one person. It's too big for one person. We need a whole nation for that. And I will make this nation from you. That was one thing. The other thing, it could not be done here or anywhere in the world, only in one place, in the Holy Land. אל הארץ אשר אראך. That's what Hashem promised him. He went to Eretz Canaan, but time passed and he became old. No children. Hashem promised him that he will make a nation out of him and Sarai. But Sarah was a girl, she could not carry a baby. And he became old. But Hashem kept promising him again and again and again. At one point, in Brit Ben HaBetarim, when he asked him to take a few animals and to cut them, and it's called Brit Ben HaBetarim, he speaks to him. And he says to him something amazing. Something that apparently when you see it, wow, but in a way there is a big question about it. Look what Hashem told him. in ספר בראשית פרק ט"ו. ויאמר לאברהם, in ברית בין הבתרים, ידוע תדע, כי גר יהיה זרעך בארץ לא להם. I'll translate everything, but let's finish read the original first. ויאמר לאברהם, ידוע תדע, כי גר יהיה זרעך בארץ לא להם, ועבדו ועינו אותם 400 שנה. וגם את הגוי אשר יעבוד הוא דן אנוכי, ואחרי כן יצאו ברכוש גדול. Let's translate. Hashem speaks to Abraham and he said to him, remember I promised you that I'll make a big nation from you? You have to know, be aware of Yadoa Teda. It's twice, to emphasize this. You know, and you should know that what? That the nation that I'll make out of you will have to go to this process. What is the process? Yadoa Teda ki ger yeh zaracha be'eretz lo lahem. They will be foreigner in a land that not belong to them. Va'avadum. And they will not be free people at this land, which is not their land. They will be slaves. But not just this. Ve'inu otam. They will be torturers there. They will not be just slave. They will be torturers, slaves. And that will take 400 years. 400 shana. But don't worry, I'm going to punish the people who will make them slaves and torture them. וגם את הגוי אשר יעבוד, the nation that will do it, דן אנוכי, I will judge them and punish them. And here's the end. ואחרי כן יצאו ברכוש גדול. After that, they will get out of this terrible situation with a big fortune. רכוש גדול. You look at this, and of course, you ask yourself, why? Why? Hashem like Avraham Avinu, because Avraham Avinu is the only one who cares about the truth? He want to give him children? Good. Why? Why through this? And Yadoa Teda, you have to know, meaning you have to know that there is no other way but this way. And the question is, why? And be aware of three things over here. The Maharal explained this the following. He says, there are three bad things over here. First of all, they will be foreigner, not in their land. And we have to know the following. If you do not know, you should know that the Jews are very unusual, weird, abnormal people. You don't know that? We are not normal. We are not normal. In many ways. But one of them, obvious one, is the way we become a nation. We become a nation like no other nation in the world, in the history of the world. We went to Egypt at the time of Yaakov Avinu, but it was no nation at the time. It was 70 people. The big family of Yaakov. Yaakov, his children, and his grandchildren. How many? 70, as we just learned or read in the Parsha, right? 70 people. You cannot call this nation. It's a big family. From Egypt went a nation. The people who went out of Egypt were the Jewish nation. So when or how we become a nation? Not in our land. This is not normal. Every other nation in the world, they go to a place like America, right? They came to America, they start to multiply, and they decided we are a nation, a new nation. But that was not our case. Our land is Israel. At the time, it was Canaan. We went out of our land, or the promised land that Hashem promised to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. We went to Egypt. We became slave and torture slave in Egypt. And that was the place that we became a nation. We became a nation as foreigner, torturers, slaves not in our country. Then Hashem took us out of Egypt. And we have to understand again, this is very important. We never went out of Egypt because we went out of Egypt. What's the first commandment? Anochi Hashem Elokecha asher hotzeticha me'eretz Mitzrayim. I took you out, not you. There was no, The Jewish nation didn't make an intifada in Egypt. They didn't make a rebel against, or they could not. They were so helpless. Nobody ever could go out of Egypt. The only way to take us out of Egypt is God that has to change the laws of nature and bring the Egyptians the 10 plagues, and he took us out of Egypt. That's another weird thing, not normal about nations, right? First of all, we become a nation in Egypt. Second, it's not who took ourselves from Egypt, but Hashem took us from Egypt with miracles. 50 days after we went out of Egypt, God gave us the Torah. Usually, nations has laws, right? Who made the laws for every nation in the world? They're scholars, right? That's not our case. We didn't do even one of the laws of the nations. We got it from God. He took us out of Egypt. He gave us the directions, the Torah instructions, what to do. When we got the Torah, not in Egypt and not in the land of Israel, in the desert. Right? Now, let's go back again to this to what's written over here. What God says to Avraham Avinu. Yado Teda, you have to know that the only way I could fulfill the promise that I promised you, that I will make out of you a great nation, will be this way. They must go not to a foreign land, not in their land. They must be slaves, must. And they must be tortured slaves. But you know what? At the end, that's what God's telling. It will be worthwhile. Why? They will come out with a great fortune. Rechush gadol. And again, you have to ask, God is almighty, right? He wants to give us money. He wants to make us rich. What's the problem for him to make us rich in different ways? Why we have to go through this, right? So here's the deep thing. And I don't think today we could cover more than this, but I want to just, complete or finish, tie everything together. The great possessions or the great fortune that we're going to get here is not money. It's not kesef v'zahav. It's not gold and silver. It's not. The Kabbalah explained the following. Being slave, tortured slave in Egypt was a necessity in order to purify the extra material, what we called before Zohamat HaNachash, the impurity that got inside the bodies since Adam HaRishon. The only way to purify is to take it, the way to take out, to purify the impurity was through take the physical dimension and diminish it. This is something very deep called in Chazal, Yisurim memarkim avonot. Yisurim memarkim avonot, when somebody's suffering, it's cleaning them up. Of course, we do not have to strive to suffer, right? But if somebody is suffering, and they should do everything that they could do not to suffer, but after they did everything, if it didn't work and they're still suffering, they have to know that there is something good of it. It's cleaning you up. It's clean the extra. Now, if you remember what I described about Chet Adam HaRishon, was a body and the soul, but when Adam HaRishon missed, the soul fell down and the body got the strong and the main thing. In order to give back the balance, you have to diminish the body. The way to diminish the body was Shibud Mitzrayim. Was the Yisurei Mitzrayim, the suffering that we had in Mitzrayim. And the great fortune that we're going to get after we will be purified, that we could get back to the state of Adam HaRishon before he sinned. And only if we will get there, we will deserve the Shabbat. Because the Shabbat, we miss the Shabbat because the imbalance, right? So in order to get the Shabbat back, you have to purify. The only people who went out of Egypt were the Jews. Everybody that didn't went out of Egypt, still in Egypt until today. What Egypt? Egypt in Hebrew, Mitzrayim. What Mitzrayim? If you remember, I think we spoke about it last time, I'm not sure. The letter Yud and Mem, at the end of every word in Hebrew, if you had the addition, at the end of it, Yud and Mem, what's Yud and Mem do? Plural. Take the singular and make it plural. Like Yad, Yadayim, Ozen, Oznaim, Regel, Raglaim. Right? Yud, Mem, make it plural. So according to this, what is Mitzrayim? Take the Yud and Mem. What do you got? Meitzar. What Meitzar? Meitzar is a fence. You know the word tsar, tsara. Tsar is narrow. When you squeeze in a way, it's so squishy, right? Tsar. From here comes the word tsara. Tsara is a trouble or suffering. Tsarot. So Mitzrayim was a plural of tsara, of Meitzar. It was a closed place that pressed you and make you slave. You could not get out of it. You are slave. What is Mitzrayim? Mitzrayim is, the philosophy of Mitzrayim is physical. What was the way that Paro, the king of Egypt, used, what method he used to torture the Jews? He made them working hard, bechomer uvilveinim. Chomer, material. Mitzrayim is chomer. The prophet Yechezkel says about Mitzrayim, asher besar chamorim besaram. Chamor is a donkey. But in Hebrew, the way to write it are the letters chet, mem, vav, resh. Same letters are, in different combination, are the word chomer. Chamor, chomer is the same thing. And every animal has character. Chamor is chomer, is material. Mitzrayim was the most materialistic place. So, in Egypt, they made us meaning the descendants of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And what Abraham says, what's the philosophy of Abraham? That spiritual is running the physical. What's the philosophy of Egypt? That physical is everything, no spiritual. When Moshe Rabbeinu came to Paro and told him, God told me to tell you to send out the Jews, what Paro says? Mi Hashem asher eshma b'kolo. Who is Hashem? I don't know him. Lo yadati et Hashem. They do not know God. They do not want to know God. Right? So in this place, this is the Eretz Lo Lahem. This is the land that against everything that they represent. Over there will be slaves and they will be tortured. And what's the purpose of this? To purify them. And therefore, lo nitna Torah ela liyotze Mitzrayim. The Torah could be given only after we finish this process and we came out of Mitzrayim. Right? Now, after we went out of Mitzrayim, we deserve the Shabbat again. And we are the only one from the descendants of Adam Arishon that went through this purified process, and therefore we deserve the Shabbat. And that's why the Ten Commandments in Shemot and in Dvarim are not contradict each other. The main thing is, Shabbat is to memorize the creation. That Hashem created the world in 6 days and He got to the purpose, ויכולו השמיים והארץ ביום השביעי. Everyone missed it because of the sin of Adam Arishon. Who are the only one that regain it? The Jews, because they were in Egypt. Therefore, Hashem gave us those two commandments that complete each other, not contradict each other. Let me just show you both of them next to each other, and with that we'll finish the session for today. First of all, it starts from Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekatcho. And we have to explain what Zachor and what Shemor. Zachor is memorize or remember. Remember. Shemor is guard, protect, keep. The difference between those two is active and passive. Zachor, when I forgot something, I knew it, I forgot. I want to remember it. It's there. I have to do something to remember. You know, sometimes I think about this and this and this, and okay, I got it. Zachor is an active action. Shamor is to protect. Protect that nothing not good will happen to it. It's lo ta'aseh. Don't harm it. So Zachor is active, and therefore Zachor is mitzvat aseh, what you should do. Shamor is lo ta'aseh. And as we know in Shabbat, we have both. Everybody knows the Shamor. What's the Shamor? Don't do mundane thing on Shabbat. It's a special day. Don't deal with the material. Make everything ready before. Lo ta'aseh melacha. This is the Shamor. Shomer Shabbat, I'm not doing not holy things in Shabbat. This is Shmirah. What's the Zechira? What's Lizkor? To remember Shabbat. How? So the Gemara says, special food, special clothing, special day. So, but this Kiddush, what we do Kiddush. When we do Kiddush, we mekadesh the Shabbat. How do we remember the Shabbat? We gather the family, Erev Shabbat, before we go to wash in order to eat. This day is special. We take a cup of wine and we remind ourselves what Shabbat is all about. Remind myself, remind my family, remind the world that there is a Shabbat. This is the Zachor. So the first thing was the Zachor et Yom HaShabbat Likatshov. This is in Shemot. In Dvarim, Shamor et Yom HaShabbat, and you have to do both, and therefore Zachor v'Shamor b'dibur echad. They are equal. You could not do the Zachor without the Shamor. You could not do the Shamor without the Zachor. You have to do both. Okay? Now here, in Shemot, it says, Ki sheshet yamim asa Hashem et hashamayim v'et haaretz, zecher l'maaseh bereshit. Here he said, you were a slave in Egypt, you are not slave anymore. Right? Because you are not slave anymore, you could go back to what Adam HaRishon was before he was sin. Because one of the things that Adam HaRishon, one of the consequences of the sin was what? Not just you're going to die, not just you get out of Gan Eden, what else? Bezeat apecha tuchal lechem. You have to work hard in order to survive. And this is very interesting, very fun if you look. You know, there are many things that in common between humans and other animals. They need to eat, we need to eat. They need to drink, we need to drink. Whose life is easier? Ours or the animals? In order to get the immediate physical things. Them, right? I never saw an animal who has to work 9 to 5 in order to cover the rent or the mortgage. Right? We working so much harder, and it's funny. We are smart, intelligent. Our life should be the easiest, but we are the worst for everyone else, and this is the curse of Adam HaRishon. Bezeat apecha tuchal lechem. You know why? You took the material, which should be a mean, not a purpose, and you turn it to a purpose. This is the sin. You made it a purpose, now be the slave of it. Waste your life working hard in order to survive. This is terrible, terrible. We are lucky. We got one day every week that we are not slaves. We're working 6 days because we are slaves of the material. One day we are kings, we are not slaves. This is Shabbat. So we got the Shabbat because, just a second, we got the Shabbat as, and this is the entire process that we had to go through, and this is actually what we try to cover today, to teach these things. So you know now the difference between the two commandments, or the two commandments about Shabbat in Shmot and Dvarim, and we try to explain a little bit. It's much deeper than we could cover now, but I think we got the major idea.
So Shamor is more to physicality.
protect, meaning don't get involved on Shabbat in the physical world.
In the physical.
Right. Make it ready.
More spiritual.
Exactly. Right.
I have two questions.
Okay.
One is, if you have parents that don't respect Shabbat as much as you,
Uh-huh.
or if you have in-laws or whatever, and you have a choice between, respecting them or respecting
Very good question.
Shabbat, what are you supposed to do?
Very good question.
And also,
Wait. Let's start with this.
okay,
Then.
the other one is a simple question.
Okay. Remember it. We'll finish answering this. You'll go to the other one. Very good question. Some people could really debate with this because Hashem command us to respect our parents. Kabed et avicha ve'et imecha. But Hashem command us, by the way, in the order of the 10 Commandments, first is Shamor et Yom HaShabbat Lekachaz, this is number 4, and number 5 is Kabed et avicha ve'et imecha. Respect your parents, right? But there are 2 values. Now, if your parents or your in-laws or people that you should respect, they do not relate to Shabbat the way you are, and they made you, they sometimes could come cynically to you and say, you know what? God commanded you to respect me, right? Right? So I'm asking you to do something that's not allowed on Shabbat. Let's say, make me a cup of tea, and you have cold water. So if you will not listen to me, you are not listening to God who told you to respect me. But if you listen to me, you are going to disgrace what God says. So what are we going to do in this case? So there is a special pasuk in the Torah. If you want, just look at it in Sefer Vayikra, Parashat Kedoshim. The second verse says the following: Kedoshim tiyu ki kadosh ani Hashem Elohechem. This is the first one. The second one is Ish imo ve'aviv tirau ve'et shabetotai tishmoru. In the same verse, Ish imo ve'aviv tirau, you have to respect, to have, but ve'et shabetotai tishmoru, meaning you should respect your parents, your in-laws. You have to respect them. But when it comes to a time or to a situation that they will command you to do something not to keep Shabbat, you do not have to listen to them. With respect. I mean, don't say to them, what are you talking about? I can't do it. I'm not doing this. This is disrespect. But just don't do it. And you have to understand in the values we have priorities. And the priority is to listen to God before we listen to our parents. Right? But you have to do it with tactful. You do not have to cause a fight. Be smart.
But that was your question. I don't know if it is.
But it's not exactly that. It's not exactly about being commanded to do something. It's let's say you're in a situation where you're not respecting Shabbat as much as
She doesn't know if to go there or not.
The question is how it comes to reality. I mean, in what way? If you have to disrespect Shabbat the way you were when you were alone, not with them, that you're not allowed to do. You have to keep Shabbat the way you do it every time.
Let's say if you don't live near a synagogue and you stay there.
Okay.
But instead of doing that, you don't do that anymore.
You don't do what anymore?
You won't stay there because then you won't be next to a synagogue.
Right. If it's important.
Place where you can go to synagogue.
Exactly. So you could talk to your parents before, to your in-laws, and explain to them, listen, I'm keeping Shabbat. I'll be more than happy to be with you, but I could not drive to the synagogue in Shabbat. So I have to miss synagogue. Could you understand me that it's important to me to take my family, to take my kids to the synagogue? So forgive me.
Is that more important than
Yes.
being? Oh, okay.
Yes. Yes, but again, you have to be smart and tactful.
I know.
You have to do it in a way that it will not get hurt by it. How? I'll leave it for you. Think about creative ideas.
Has to be something in the middle.
Yeah, the second question.
So let's say you buy your nice things for Shabbat, you buy a nice tablecloth or you buy a
Yeah.
washing cup. So is that a mitzvah?
Of course.
Each time? No, each time.
Each time you do good things for Shabbat, to make Shabbat special, it's a mitzvah by itself.
Oh, that's a mitzvah?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we have to do, and you know what? Let me tell you another thing. First of all, we have to do everything to make Shabbat special. Buy even very special clothes again and again and again for you, for the children. Make Shabbat special. This is a mitzvah by itself. More than that, don't worry about the budget. Why? It says that every Rosh Hashanah, it's decided in heaven, in Shemayim, how much money you're going to make this year. Every Rosh Hashanah, for the entire year. Does not include two things. Hotzaot Shabbat veYom Tov, any expenses of Shabbat and Yom Tov, any, it's not in the budget, and the Hotzaat Banav leTalmud Torah. If you had to teach your children Torah, and it's more expensive, and you have to hire, let's say, somebody to learn with them, and it's expensive, this is out of the budget. If you do it, you get it. If you do not do it, it's your choice, you'll not get it. It's extra. So don't worry to respect Shabbat and do whatever you could to make Shabbat special. Okay. That's it for today.